So my neighbor is doing something with their fence right now, and I have been waiting, and I've been waiting like over an hour, and I just don't think they're gonna stop, and the sun is setting. So, you know, I did my makeup today because I don't do my makeup every day in quarantine, and I'm wearing a real shirt just for you guys. So I don't want to waste this. So we're gonna go ahead and film this video. So I'm sorry if you hear like, rah, rah, that's my neighbor, and please excuse them. So today I am filming this Queer Rex video for you guys. This is full of books that I have read and really liked. They've really stuck with me. I hesitate to say love because some of them are definitely darker and they more like haunt you forever. So if that's your jam, stick around. I have probably read them and you probably haven't. So these are all my favorites that have the least amount of reviews, which is generally a good way to see like how many people have roughly read it. So we're gonna start out with the most popular of the bottom and then go to like the most obscure of the bottom. So I hope you find some books that you've never heard of before that might be interesting to you. I definitely would love a list of like random obscure queer reads. If anyone else wants to do this, please do so and then link it to me down below because I always love to see more queer books that maybe aren't just like the popular thing, that maybe have slipped through the cracks. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this video. So the first up on this list is As Meat Loves Salt by McCann. This is taking place during the 17th century and the English Revolution, and we are following a very unsavory character known as Jacob Cullen. He is just not a good person at all. Basically, he murders someone, and then he rapes his wife, and then he flees, and that is where we meet this unsavory jerk. So if that is already too much for you, then I'm just gonna go ahead and say skip this one because it gets worse. It gets way worse. But this is essentially his life as he's going through the revolution, and he's working, and he's going to war, and he's recovering, and another man that he meets, and they have a very fractured, intense love that develops over time, and it's very dark, and it's very complex and convoluted. In the end was just like dagger in the freaking heart. So if that doesn't seem like your book, if you don't like angst, if you don't like super gray characters, like neither one of them is winning any of awards. They're both terrible people, but it's just like so gritty. And you know, if anything was going to get me interested in history, it would be queer love. So this is the number 15 on this list. So next up is Peter Darling by Austin Chant, which is a queer retelling of Peter Pan. So this follows Hook and Peter, who used to be Wendy. Yes, that's right. This has trans rep, and this story was so good. I totally cried at the end. I cried so hard, and this is my favorite all-time Peter Pan retelling, and I really want everyone to read it. Like, I wish that I could just, you know, buy this by the bucket load and be like, you have a Peter Darling, and you have a Peter Darling, and you all have Peter Darlings, because I honestly do think it is one of the best, if not the best, Peter Pan retelling that I have ever read. So number 13 on this list is Teeth by Hannah Moskowitz. This is a dark merperson story. Basically, Rudy is a young man, and he is with his family, and they move to this island where it's rumored that if you eat the fish that swim around the island, it can cure illness. And this is really important because in Rudy's family, he has a really sick sibling. So the whole reason they move there is so that the sibling can get better. But Rudy also meets someone named Teeth, and they develop a relationship. And this book is very dark. If you're looking for light, fluffy content, this ain't it. So go elsewhere. But I really loved this. It was so good. So sad. Break my heart into a million pieces. I think a theme that I'm seeing with all these books is like maybe the reason that they're not read by many people is that they have sad or dark elements, which is my jam. So let's continue on. So next up, number 12 is The Merewife by Maria Dahvana Headley. This is a Beowulf retelling where Grendel's mother is a war veteran who comes back, who has been assaulted, and she gives birth in one of the mining shafts of her old hometown, which has since been bulldozed and turned into Harrot Hall, basically a very rich area where all the houses are like made of glass. And her son isn't like the other children, so she keeps her son isolated. And this has just a beautiful development of like a relationship. I'm not gonna get too into it, but there is definitely a queer relationship in here, and just ripped my heart out. I loved it so much. Oh my god. This was one of my favorite books, I think last year or the year before, so as the whole book, it's just phenomenal. I love it so much. I highly, highly, highly recommend it in general. I don't know why everyone's not talking about it, but this book is so clever and so beautiful and so queer, and I loved it. Let's talk about some smut, which has taken over the 11th place here. This is Kidnapped by the Pirate by Keira Andrews. This involves a virgin gay man named Nathaniel, who has basically been kicked out of his home because his parents don't approve of his sexual orientation, and he is on the way somewhere else. He is kidnapped by a pirate named Hawk, who's bent on getting revenge on Nathaniel's parents. And this has some of the steamiest, most memorable, like, pirate ship sex scenes I think I've ever encountered. So if that is your thing, if that sounds great to you, then go ahead and boop. Just add this to your TBR, put it in your shopping cart. It is great. So next up, let's get a little weird with the 10th spot, and this is a Swedish translated work called Amatka by Karin Tidbeck. This is dealing with Vanja, who goes on an assignment to like a wintry city outpost where if people don't repeat the names of things, those things will slowly melt. Like literally just goopy, become goopy. So in this kind of barren, very cold place where words carry so much meaning, she's trying to figure out what's really happening. And she also is starting to develop feelings for her roommate, who is a lady. So this is definitely a very weird, surreal book, but I highly recommend it. It's just surreal, and it turned me on to Karin Tidbeck, and I just think her writing is sublime. Number 9 on this list is The Prey of the Gods by Nicky Drayden. So Nicky Drayden has an amazing imagination. This is a story where there's like 5 different plot lines, and they are all pretty much equally weighted. There's a young girl who is a god, and as her power is starting to awaken, at the same time we are also following a mayor who moonlights as a drag queen, and we are also following a pair of young adolescent men who have a friendship, and their friendship develops into more. But all the different storylines are caught up in this like very amazing futuristic world where AI is rising. There are also like genetically modified animals, and there's also like a goddess thrown into the mix, and there's magic, and there's just like so much is happening. It's a lot. But if you are looking for a book which will be unique and which will have a lot of queer rep, but more than that, like truly thinking about new ideas, like it's not just the same regurgitated stuff that you'd see in a lot of other books, then this is for you. Also, the cover is a work of art, and we're gonna keep on moving along. Number 8 on this list is some BDSM smutty time, which is amazing. This is his Coffee Valet by McCade. And McCade is an Asian American queer author whom I love deeply. The sex scenes are just beautiful. So this follows a young heir whose father has had a stroke, and he doesn't really know how to manage the company because it's a huge like billionaire company, and the valet steps in with a very firm hand, if you know what I mean. And that's all I'm gonna say. If that sounds like your thing and you're into a little bit of kinky reading times, then please check this out, because it's so good. Okay, so I really think that we're starting to get more toward the more obscure books that like you may not have heard of. At least I certainly hope that is the case, so that I hope that I'm telling you guys about new books to check out. Next up, as number 7, we have The Lamb Shall Slaughter the Lion by Margaret Killjoy. And this one is a very slim little novella that took me by complete surprise. So we are following Danielle Cain, who is a queer punk rock traveler who knows that one of her friends went missing in this town, and when she shows up to that town to find out what happened to her friend, she realizes that like the townspeople have accidentally summoned this satanic guarding beast, and it's slowly killing all the animals and driving away the people. And so it's a bit of a culty shenanigans with demons and lots of queer punk anarchist squatters, and it's just like really weird, but really good. So if that at all sounds up your alley, go for it. I didn't know I needed it until I saw it in the library, and I was like, whoa, that cover, just take my money. Or don't take my money because it's the library. I will check it out and return it to you promptly. And that's what I did, and it was amazing. So next on this list is Silk and Steel by Ariana Nash. This is fantasy with elves, dragons, and humans, and it's amazing. So in this one, we're following Erwin, who is an elven assassin who's sent to kill the queen of a dragon clan. But his attempt fails, and he is thwarted by the queen's son, the prince, and they decide, kind of develop feelings, and there is a huge war that's going on right now between the dragon clans, the elven clans, and the humans at the fringes. And this book was so good. Their relationship is so, oh my god, slow burn. If you don't like slow burn, this is not for you. But if you like slow burn like me, be prepared to wait patiently and love it, because this was so good. One of them's bi, one of them's gay, one of them's an elf, one of them's a dragon shifter. It doesn't get any better than that, okay? It was just absolutely phenomenal. Number 5 on this list is Prince of Air and Darkness by M.A. Grant. This one I recommended a while ago as a replacement for Carry On, which I was not a fan of. So this also deals with a 6-year magical school, and we are following Finn and Rourke, and they just really don't get along. You know, it's enemies to maybe friends to maybe something else. But the strong point of this is that Finn is kind of like a useless human who's not that good at magic, and he constantly gets in harm's way. And Rourke is an unseelie prince, which is like dark fae prince, and he's constantly saving Finn's ass from the trouble. But you don't really know what the true story is until halfway through the book, okay? So the first half of the book, it seems kind of light, and you're like, oh, this won't get too serious. It's not going to be that serious. And then about halfway through, you start to realize things that have happened in Finn's past, and also things that Rourke is currently dealing with. And like, let me just say, once you get to that halfway point, you cannot put it down, okay? It is so good. It is so quick paced. It is just so good. And yeah, it ends on the cusp of a huge effing war. So it's definitely not a standalone, but totally worth it. So number 4 on my list is Work For It by Talia Hibbert. If you do not know who Talia Hibbert is and you like romance, you are sleeping on an amazing author. She writes absolutely amazing romances, and I was so keen to read this male-male romance. One of the character identifies as bisexual or pansexual, and the other character is gay. And oh my god, this is probably my favorite romance of the year so far, and it has the hottest sex scene that I can remember like in recent years. So you're following the 2 characters. One is Griffin, and he's like a very large, misunderstood farmer, which we love that. Like, he loves plants, he's shy, but he kind of comes off as gruff because he's so big, and he doesn't like, he's kind of awkward with people, so people take that the wrong way. We love that. And then like the other character is this city slicker who has just come to like have some rest and relaxation and help with the harvest. But he has some trauma in his past, and the way that they dealt with this trauma and the way that the characters interacted with each other was so soft and so just beautiful, frankly. Just so well written. I loved it so much. I honestly think the reason that this isn't more well known is because it just came out recently. It was just released. So I think that this will be off this list once time goes on, because when more people read it, it's going to be like I think, a new fave for a lot of people. So if you guys read this, let me know. We can geek out about it down below. But Griffin is just, I think, my fictional, not a crush, but like, I love him in the relationship. Like, I love their relationship together, okay? Like, I ship them so hard, and I'm just like, they're my fictional crushes. Like, I just want to, you know, support them and support their love. It's so good. Number 3 on my list is arguably one of the darkest books I've read in a long time. So let me just preface this right now. This is absolutely not a romance. It's not. And it's written by TJ Klune, who is often a queer or male-male romance writer. And I just want to go ahead and squash that right now. This is not a romance. I urge you to not read this if you want a romance, if you want something sweet and fluffy. This is not. This is a downer. This is a very dark book with very dark topics, and it's always dark, like the whole way through. So yeah, with that huge disclaimer, this is Withered and Sere by TJ Klune. Okay, this was one of my favorite books last year or the year before. We are following a main character who is living in a post-apocalyptic world where there's been nuclear fallout, and there are these small hub kind of outposts set up, but he doesn't trust himself enough to live with people because he has severe PTSD from when his family was killed, and he is living alone in this like abandoned medical science facility with a sentient AI robot running the place and his dog. Okay, and he goes out hunting, and everything is mutated from the fallout, and he shoots this deer, and the deer bounds across the highway, which is a huge problem because on the other side of the highway is where the gang of cannibals known as the Dead Rabbits live. Okay, and he crosses the highway to get the deer. It's a huge no-no, and he meets someone which he shouldn't have ever met, and the story goes from there. This does have queer elements. I believe that the main character is bisexual and the other character is non-specified, although it is a male-male relationship. I loved the development. It's very much slow burn, but I wouldn't technically call it a romance. I would say like it's a relationship, if that makes sense. Like there's no cute ever. Nowhere. Okay, so I just really don't want to steer anyone toward this book, which I loved, who I don't think would enjoy it or who might be triggered. That's the last thing I would ever want to do. So with all that being said, check it out if that sounds up your alley. So number 2, most obscure on this list, is The Cybernetic Tea Shop by Meredith Katz. This one is just a cute short story that I recommend for basically everyone. This is following Clara Gutierrez, who is an AI repair technician. So she kind of hops around different cities as she repairs different mechs. And in this city in particular, she runs into this tea shop, which is run by a mech who identifies as female. And when there starts to be some vandalization of the shop due to it being run by an AI mech, they kind of bond over protecting the tea shop and like repairing it, and it was so cute. I love it so much. I've said it before, I like human AI stuff. I don't know why, but I do. And this one is a female-female, which I have not seen in any of the other books I've read with this trope, so I do highly recommend it. So the most obscure book I want to talk about on this list is Lost Boy by Sassafras Lowry. This is a queer retelling of Peter Pan with BDSM elements. So in this retelling, Peter Pan gathers up lost boys, BOI, which can often indicate trans men or also genderqueer or non-binary peoples. This is so interesting because Peter basically has like the lawless wild wild west of BDSM in his kind of hovel, and then nearby is Hook, who runs a by the rules BDSM club. And that is where the schism is between them. That is why they can never get along, is because Hook follows BDSM protocol and Peter really doesn't. He does whatever, feels right in the time. And then we also have Mermaid Lagoon, which is a brothel on an old steamboat. So there is a lot of triggers for this book, definitely. There is a lot of just different aspects of BDSM shown in different lights. there is drug use, there is, I think, self-harm. There are a whole bunch of different things in here, so if that sounds like it would be at all triggering, definitely don't read it. But if it sounds interesting to you and it might be just perfect for you, then I really do recommend it. It really intrigued me, and I thought about it for a long time after I read it. So that finishes up my 15 queer recommendations that you probably haven't read. If you liked this, please do let me know, and I can do it for other topics as well, such as like sci-fi or fantasy or like ocean themed books or mermaid themed books. I always like to recommend books that maybe people haven't heard of before, because everyone knows like the popular books, but you know, there are some real good gems. So yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Give me a thumbs up or follow if you liked it. That would be amazing, and I will chat to you all in another video soon. Bye!